What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and in this video, we got to talk about kind of two separate stories that I think, two separate things said that I think make a really good combined story, and that is, number one, that Naughty Dog was originally thinking about Last of Us 2 DLC, or Last of Us Part 2 DLC, but number two, through that article and through Jason Schreier, right, of Bloomberg, he's come out again a week after he did it last week, and he's revealed more stuff, and he also kind of says what they're currently working on, which I think is, to me, the biggest story and the biggest thing that I'm honestly probably going to get pretty mad at that we'll talk about as this video goes on. So, as always, if you guys do like this stuff, make sure you guys are subscribed. A lot of the people that watch my videos are not subscribed, like 85% or something like that. So make sure if you guys are watching and you aren't subscribed, please do. Hit the bell icon. Also, just give the video a like if you liked it. The likes have definitely been helping videos out over the week when I ask you guys to. So make sure you like it. If you want to dislike it, if you hate me or you hate the video, that's totally cool too. Engagement's engagement. All right. So let's go over this. I pretty much summed it up. So pretty much Jason Schreier said that I believe at one point Naughty Dog was thinking about DLC, but I don't think that happened. So the way he words that is kind of stupid. It's not clear what stage of production the additional content may have been in, and Schreier does say that the studio may still do something, but it sounds as though the project has been shelved, at least for now. He also says that there's maybe a possibility that they pick up the DLC down the line, that they can maybe change their mind, which is a little odd. But the biggest thing to me, so that's one part, and I'll talk about that in a second, but the biggest thing to me is that he says that some of the team of Naughty Dog is working on The Last of Us Part 2 multiplayer, and while others have reportedly been moved to help out with The Last of Us PS5 remake. Now, he doesn't say anything else about any other game whatsoever. Like, those are the only things. So, you know, I guess reading, because I've read this like 2 or 3 times, like before I record the video, the way I read it, like the more I'm reading it, he does kind of word it as if he's still leaving the possibility open that there's like a third part of that team that's like staying, like, because he literally says, you know, some of them are working on multiplayer, okay, for Part 2. Some of them have been moved to help with The Last of Us Part 1's remake, which that comes from, remember the, whatever they call it, Naughty Dog North or Naughty Dog South, whichever one it is, that visual effects studio, right? And they're the ones who are taking the mantle, like they're doing The Last of Us remake, but some of Naughty Dog, like the main team, is helping them. So, like, the way he says it sounds like there's 3 teams in all. Okay, now that's just the way I read it. You could read it as if there's only 2, and if you do read it as it's only 2, let me just say this before I get any further. That would be the biggest. And you know, look, guys, I made the video on The Last of Us remake last week, and I stand by every word I said. The Last of Us remake is the most unnecessary thing you could ever imagine. Okay, I even did a poll on this channel, and it did really, really well. And I was shocked in a way, but also very happily, like, surprised, because I think my poll, I said basically, will you buy Last of Us Part 1, which you can still vote on right now. It's in the community tab. But, like, I think 73% or something like that said no, said they will not buy it. And it's off of, like, 7,000 votes or something, which, yes, that's a small sample size. The Last of Us sold over 10 million. The Last of Us Part 2 sold over 10. So, like, there's a lot more people out there. But, I mean, you know, if you make that sample size and you grow it for, like, the larger group, if 75% of people say no and 25% of the people say yes, that's a big deal, I would say. So I'm happy about that, because I really... So again, if you read this as there's only 2 teams, and one of the teams is working on multiplayer for Part 2. Now, let me say this. You can have whatever opinion on Part 2 that you want. I've said it before. I like a lot of it. I actually love a lot of it, and I dislike severely, you know, several story decisions, or, like, you know, just, I guess, decisions in general that they made, okay? So it's a very love-hate relationship I have with Part 2. When it comes to the multiplayer, though, I'm all in. I mean, I love the multiplayer for Part 1, or, like, I guess, Last of Us 1. I've loved Naughty Dog's multiplayer in general. The Uncharted's multiplayer, I think, is one of the most kind of seamless transitions between, like, if you play the game and it's, you know, Uncharted, it's literally the game of Uncharted. It's like, how would that work in multiplayer? They did it perfectly. I personally think, like, Uncharted 3 specifically, Uncharted 4's multiplayer, they are even 2's multiplayer, but they are so good, okay? So and Last of Us multiplayer was great, so I'm all in for Part 2. So I'm not saying, like, it's a waste of time for them to do that, but if they have 2 teams, and half is working on multiplayer, half is working on the remake, you're wasting the most. I mean, I couldn't imagine a better way of wasting time. You know what I mean? Because to some, their reputation has taken a hit because of Part 2. To me, I would say so. I would say Neil Druckmann, to me, has lowered in terms of how I respect the guy. Naughty Dog, I would say, again, there's a lot of things that they are literally better than anybody else at, and I fully stand by that, okay? There's some things, though, that when you talk about them being like at a God tier, I think that it would lower. And that's just for me. I know there's some people that maybe put them back up, but again, that makes it even worse, because do you want a God tier developer wasting their time on a remake of a game that came out 8 years ago? And then if you think that their reputation has dropped a little bit, would you want them to prove themselves again with a new game, or even The Last of Us Part 3? Or would you want them to remake a game from 8 years ago? So like no matter what happens, no matter which of those options you take, I still think it's a bad idea to waste time, because you could be making Part 3, which, by the way, I do want Last of Us Part 3. While I didn't like some of the story decisions in 2, I still want 3, okay? And I would play it second one, not even just day one. I play it the first second it's available. So, like, I want that. I would love to see a brand new game from them, a new IP. Like I said, I've said this for a while. I don't want them touching Uncharted. I actually would prefer somebody else, a different studio to do Uncharted. So I would prefer a new game or The Last of Us Part 3. I would not prefer a remake. So if it's only 2 teams, I don't know how you could waste time better than that. If it's 3 teams and you read it a little bit differently, how Jason Schreier puts it, then I guess it's a little bit more okay, but it's still not the greatest. And one thing I do want to say, too, is I think it was like Evan Wells, the co-president. Remember, him and Neil Druckmann, I believe, are the co-presidents of Naughty Dog. He did an interview earlier on this week, and I was going to make a video on it, but it actually applies here, so I can bring it up. And he talked about how Naughty Dog has tried before to be a 2-game developer. I guess I should stop my sentence right there. A 2-game developer, where they literally have 2 full teams at the same time working on different games, okay? And he said they tried that with The Last of Us and Uncharted 3. They tried that, and it wasn't successful whatsoever. And pretty much after that, they did do one at a time. That was literally their thing. And he still said that they do one thing at a time. They have a couple of projects that are like pre-production stuff, but for the most part, they work on one big thing and they move on to the next thing. So if you want to include that, and you would say, but then again, like, questions raised, does multiplayer for Last of Us Part 2, is that a big thing? Is that the big thing, right? Or is that kind of a smaller thing where maybe they could do that while doing something else? I've always assumed they could do multiplayer while working on something else, but maybe not. Maybe it was in pre-production until Last of Us Part 2 was over, and then the entire team moved over into multiplayer. But that seems weird, because multiplayer is a very specific set of skills. Okay, not like Liam Neeson from Taken, but it's a specific set of skills that, if you're working on the game, you may not have those. If you're working on the single-player game, the story game, you may not have the skills to do multiplayer, right? You have to hire people that have multiplayer backgrounds. So I would personally say no, that I don't think multiplayer is that big thing. You could say, okay, is The Last of Us remake a big thing? Yeah, that could maybe be it. So maybe they're doing multiplayer, but they're also doing the remake, and that's it. Or again, maybe they're doing like all these lending projects. They're giving some people to that visual group to help with Last of Us Remake. They still have the same team that they've had for a while, a couple of years now, working on the multiplayer. And then they have the big team, the rest of the team, Neil, all them, they're working on the next big thing. I'd like to believe that, because again, I just don't want to believe that they're wasting time. Again, no matter where you think of Naughty Dog, even if you want to look at them, which I think you should, as like Sony's premier studio, which I think that many people still look to them like that. I think Sony looks to Naughty Dog as like their golden child, you know what I mean? I think that's just kind of the sense they give off. Why would you would want them working on a new thing, a big new thing, because you're in the PS5, this is a dead period. I know you have to you have to have like forward thinking when you're in the game industry, but you probably want to have Naughty Dog working on something very, very big besides The Last of Us Remake, because Last of Us Remake, sounds like a good idea, I guess, to some people, but I don't know. I don't know how guaranteed it would be to do amazing. I really, really don't. You'll see the people on Twitter saying, all these people saying they don't want it, they'll be the first ones to buy it. Maybe. I wouldn't disagree, because people sometimes are like that, but I'd like to believe that you guys, anybody, and I know there's actually people of mine that do want it, and that's completely cool. I truly have nothing against it. Maybe I'd end up getting it. I don't know. But I would like to see how many people that keep saying no, even like voted in my poll. I see there's many other polls out there. I'd like to see how many of those people actually like follow through and don't buy The Last of Us Remake. You know what I mean? So it's not a guarantee that game would be the biggest thing that they would imagine. You know what I mean? It's not a guaranteed it would match the original sales of The Last of Us or the sales of Last of Us Part 2. And then again, you have to have those kind of comparisons in your studio where it's like, if we made a brand new game, would that sell more than The Last of Us Remake? I think yes. I think easily yes. If we made The Last of Us Part 3, would that sell more than The Last of Us Remake? Yeah, I really do think it does. So I know they're doing it for the TV show. Like, that's got to be. There's no other reason why you do it if it's not to line up with a TV show. So we'll have to see. So let me know, guys, in the comments below, what do you think? Do you think that there really are only two things going on there, and the multiplayer and Last of Us Remake are those two things? Do you think there's more stuff that kind of Jason Schreier isn't saying? Let me know. As always, make sure you guys are, again, subscribed. Hit that subscribe button. Hit the bell icon so you guys know when all these videos go up. Hit the like button if you like this video. Hit the dislike video if you didn't like it. Completely cool. Thank you all so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. I hope to see you all on the next video.